Welcome to tonight's wind down session with your host, Cynthia Newell. I hope everyone has had a wonderful day today and that you are ready to wind down, relax, and get ready for bed, depending on what time it is where you are. Um, I wanted to share something about the meltdown, how valuable of an experience meltdowns are. So this morning, my daughter, um, we had got her ready for school and got her clothes, and she went in her room and she was getting herself together, I guess, putting the finishing touches on her hair. And I was getting myself prepared in my room. And I asked her to come back in my room, and I noticed that she had tears in her eyes. And so I asked her what was wrong, and she bust out crying, and she said, I just feel like my clothes just look like boy clothes. I just feel like I look like a boy today. And so, of course, as a mother, I reassure, no, you look fine, you look pretty. But I also asked her, what makes you feel like you look like a boy? And she talked about how her clothes were baggy. She preferred to wear skinny jeans. So in the time that we had short amount of time before the school bus came, but I was willing to help her go in her closet and pick something out that would make her feel more girly and that she would be pleased with. But she didn't want to do that. And I had to remember in that moment, there's a part for me to do. I did my part in, trying to work with her and help her, give her time to go find her something to wear. There's a part for her to do, which she didn't want to do her part, which was change her clothes so she could feel better. And then there's a part for God to do. And so I thank God for learning that, because it's really helping me to take myself off the hook for things that are not mine to do. Um, but as I went through the day, we didn't have time. We normally sit and we wait for the bus, but as soon as I was pulling out the gate, the bus was coming. So I had to kind of speed a little bit down the hill. So we didn't have that time to talk about it and for me to get her to a place where she was okay. And that was God's part. But throughout the day, I just kept thinking about how it's in meltdowns where we get our greatest clarity, because in those moments, we are clear about what's annoying us, what we don't like, what doesn't feel good. We are very clear. And so it's in the meltdowns where we can use that information to level up, to go to the next level, to go to the place. But a lot of times what we do is we get stuck in the feeling and the uncomfortableness, the uneasiness, and we don't get anywhere. But in the meltdowns, I thought about when you light a candle and the wax in the candle begins to melt. It all starts to come together. It loses its form and it all begins to come together. And that's what happens when we have meltdowns. Everything just comes out. It comes and it's malleable. We are able to be reshaped and get clarity and make different decisions. The beliefs and the paradigms that are in our head, they're breaking down. And so we have an opportunity to choose something different or stay where we are and be uncomfortable and be unhappy. And so I was thinking about another situation where one day I was at my job and I had a breakdown. Something had happened. I wasn't crying or anything, but I stopped and I started writing out my feelings right then and there. I don't like this. This doesn't make me happy. This person doesn't know how to communicate. Just all these things. I let it out, and in the letting out, that was my prayer to God about the things that were making me unhappy, the things that something needed to be done about. When we're breaking down, that's a perfect time to listen. What am I really feeling? What am I really thinking? What is really going on? It's not the time to ignore ourselves or try to talk ourselves out of what we're feeling. It's the time to just be still and really get clear about what's going on internally so that we can make the decisions that will bring things together in a different way. So I just wanted to encourage us as we're elevating, as we are healing, as we're returning to the truth of who we are, as we're drawing nigh to God, there will be those moments where you're not happy. You just don't feel good. It's a meltdown. All of this stuff is, when you're intentional about your life and you are paying it, it is heavy work. It is heavy work, and it comes from all different angles. And so when we allow ourselves to have those meltdowns, we can get clear about, okay, this is not mine. This is yours, God. Oh, that's somebody else's. I'm getting mad about this, that, and the other. Because if you're listening to what's coming up, then you can hear what's in there and start divvying out, bagging up and shipping it, to where it belongs. And so tonight, as we prepare for rest, look at our lives and look at your life and just see where your meltdowns, and it may not be a full-on tantrum. You may not go into a crying spell, but it could be you just checked out. It's just too much, and allow whatever that part or where that is in you, allow it to speak and listen to it. Kind of going back to the other day when I talked about the stillness, and the stillness we hear the loudest and the clearest. And so it could be you disengaging and disconnecting and not answering the phone, or, not responding to text messages, or just, keeping yourself secluded and isolated. You know what your meltdown looks like. You know what it looks like when you have gotten to the brink of, I'm frustrated. You know what it looks like. And so in those moments, allow clarity to come forth, and then go to the throne of grace boldly and give it to God, God's parts. Give God his just due, and be at peace. It's something about when you just get it out. It's like if you're sick, you got a stomach ache, and you just vomit it out, whatever was in there making you sick, you start to feel better. And it's the same way with our minds, and when things are on our minds and we're frustrated or overwhelmed or overstimulated, sometimes we just got to get it out. However it is, rocking, crying, however you need to get it out so you don't carry it to the next place of where you're going in life. And so the meltdowns, they add to our lives great clarity. And so it doesn't mean that we're weak. It doesn't mean that we cannot withstand things or we're quitters or anything. Meltdowns are good. When you think about the word of God, it talks about purification, how you have to be tried in the fire. And meltdowns sometimes are very fiery, but what comes from them is purification. And so love yourself, let yourself have a meltdown here or there, and be comforted. God is our great comforter. And so allow God to comfort you, lead you in the meltdowns, the breakdowns, the shattering, things falling apart, all those things, because we know in the end we have the victory, and all things are working together for our good because we truly have our heart turned to God and we want to do God's will. And so I pray that you all have a wonderful night of rest and that you have sweet dreams and that you wake up in the morning feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. And I hope you do have a dream of just letting some things go and feeling lighter and freer. And so I want to thank you for joining tonight. I hope that it was a blessing for you. And good night, everyone.